Shalom חברים, יעלה Rosenfeld here at Dernister. Today is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. היום יום רביעי, י"ט באדר תשפ"ה. All right, let's begin. Oh yeah, and the Torah portion is Vayakhel. Okay, here we go. With the increasing value of the world of things, proceeds in direct proportion the devaluation of the world of man. This beautiful sentence was written by the young Karl Marx, is in a part of his economic and philosophic manuscript of 1844. Now, Karl Marx needs no introduction. When these essays are associated to young Karl Marx because he was 26 years old when he wrote them. And personally, I really prefer the writings of the young Karl Marx to his more later work like Das Kapital, that is a lot more heavier and technical and more of an economic masterpiece. I feel like the writings of the young Marx are more philosophical in nature, dare I say poetic. They concern more human psyche and psychology. And really, I think that some of his ideas in his early writings really were those ideas that revolutionized the way we think today and all thought that was written from that point on. But today I'm not going to give an overview of Marxism or get into many details about Marx himself, but really just focus on one idea that I really like out of Marx's early writings, and that is the idea of alienation. And it connects to our Torah portion today, Vayakhel. So, Vayakhel is a portion that really details the work in the tabernacle, and it opens with verses actually that's concerning the Shabbat. Okay, so here we go. ויקהל משה את כל הדת בני ישראל ויאמר עליהם אלה הדברים אשר ציווה אדוני לעשות אותם. Okay, Moses then convoked the whole Israelite community and said to them, these are the things that Adonai has commanded you to do. All right? ששת ימים תעשה מלאכה, וביום השביעי יהיה לכם קודש, שבת שבתון לאדוני, כל העושה בו מלאכה יומת. All right? On 6 days, work may be done, but on the 7th day you shall have a Shabbat of complete rest, holy to Adonai. Whoever does any work on it shall be put to death. All right, so here we can find a very, very explicit negative commandment, meaning mitzvat lo ta'aseh, okay? You shall not work on Shabbat unless you will be put to death. However, Rabbi David Menachem, or Rav David Menachem, who's, by the way, if you don't know him, please look him up, is a contemporary Israeli Mizrahi Rav. He's also a musician. Really, really wonderful Torah that he teaches. And he suggests to take a look at the positive commandment, mitzvat aseh, of the same verse. So instead of you shall not work on the Shabbat, think about it this way. 6 days, work may be done. Okay? So I have a problem with the JPS translation. By the way, I have many problems with the JPS translation, but this is another one of them. It's translated to 6 days of work may be done. I don't think it's a suggestion. I think te'aseh means you have to work for 6 days. And this is what I want to touch on today. For 6 days, you have to work, right? We are commanded to work, but not just any work, right? So David Menachem explains that when God created the universe, the creation of the universe was not complete. God created something deliberately for us to continue. Deliberately something partial, so humans will be participating in the act of creation and continue that creation. So if you think about it this way, this have to mean creative work. Okay? Think about what we say every Friday night, right? ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכה אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברא אלוהים לעשות. God created for us to do. God created to ברא אלוהים לעשות. And that really, really illustrates that creation is for us to do, for us to complete. And that brings us back to Marx's concept of alienation. So, simply put, Marx claimed that the capitalist system alienates humans in 4 different aspects, okay? So it alienates us from nature, it alienates us, so it's nature, alienates us from work, alienates us from each other, and alienates us from ourselves, okay? So these are the 4 forms of alienation. And let's unpack this. So when we think about the alienation from ourselves, this is how Marx defined it as alienation from the product of labor. Okay, what does that mean? Simply put, when a human creates something, and when a human puts their entire creative forces into something, into a product, this product represents from that to them pride and self-worth, right? So if they get to keep the product, let's say if I make myself a shawl, if I make myself shoes, right? I get to keep the product, of course, I use it. I have my creativity in it. Or what happened for most of history, I can maybe trade it for something that has the same value. But what happens in the modern industrialist capitalist system, and of course, remember, this was written mid-19th century, so really the height of like the early industrial revolution, is that the product that a worker makes then is being taken away from them. And in most cases, that product, the worker will never be able to afford. This is unfortunately something that is not just a 19th century phenomenon, right? Think of a worker in Bangladesh just making a really beautiful dress and, to never see it again or be able to afford it ever in their lives. And so not only the factory, right, puts you on a conveyor belt where you only make a part of a product, but even if you're lucky enough to make a whole product, you then are alienated from it, right? And that alienation from self-worth is the alienation from ourselves. All right. So the second type of alienation, the alienation from labor, Marx calls it alienation from the process of labor. All right? So what does that mean? It means that when a worker's sole purpose is, Marx would call it, to generate surplus value, meaning to make the capitalist clean profit. Okay, that's the simplest way to put it. They are reduced to mere machines. And all other human traits that a human have are irrelevant. So if you think about it, if my worth is only measured in my productivity per hour, there's nothing else about my humanity that is necessary, right? So that is the alienation in the process of labor. And that creates a really contradictory and strange phenomenon where people feel worthy only on their hours of leisure, meaning when they don't do work. Whereas human nature is to feel self-worth in your productivity and when you are creative and not when you are not. But this is what happens under the capitalist system. All right. Number 3 is alienation from other people or from other workers. Of course, that goes without saying. The capitalist system pits us against each other, right? So we are put in constant competitions inside the working class, workers against workers, but also in the capitalist class, capitalist against capitalist. So everyone is competing. And then, of course, we have workers competing against capitalists, which leads to a class war, which this is why Marx claimed that capitalism was not sustainable. And so that goes without saying. But the last point is the point that actually relates to our parasha and to our commandment to work, which is the alienation from nature, or as Marx puts it, alienation from species being. Okay? So humans are disconnected from their creative, purposeful essence. All right? So that's what Marx calls species being, reducing labor to mere survival. And this is astonishingly communicates with our Torah portion. God explicitly commended us to work and to be creative. God commanded us to continue the act of creation. We were created, B'Tselem Elohim. We are created in the image of God for us to do so. So when this is taken away from us, we become alienated from nature, from the world, from people, from each other, and of course, from ourselves. And I want to end in Marx's own words. It estranges man from his own body, from nature, as it exists outside him, from his spiritual essence, his human being. Shabbat Shalom, Chaverim. See you next time.